What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new around here, welcome for the first time. This is my Get Faster series. This is the third video in this installment, and this one is all about car control. On this particular series, I'm trying to help you guys do exactly that, get faster. So I'm going through a lot of the basics, a lot of the Motorfest foundational skills that you need to work on, and giving you advice on how to work on them. So if you're looking to improve in Motorfest, you found the right place. All right, let's go. All right, like I said in the intro, this video is all about car control. Now, if you're looking for additional help, you can go to previous videos or the next video in the series, and I'll have those linked in the description, and it may help you to watch them in order. So maybe go back to the first video in the series. I've got a whole playlist set up here on YouTube so you can just watch them from the beginning. Anyways, this one, like I said, is about car control. The previous video was about settings, and that's actually the first topic I want to cover here in this video. It's important to understand some things that will help you sort of set yourself up for good success and good growth when it comes to Motorfest. The increase of steering sensitivity, your dynamic max lock, and the linearity for your steering. A lot of that stuff is a little bit confusing in the settings menu, so again, watch that video, come back to this one. Let's talk about some general best practices when it comes to car control. Number one, I really recommend stop switching all of your cars all the time. So if you're playing grand races or if you're playing a playlist race, don't keep switching your cars. Try to stick with the same cars. You need to have some familiarity with the car itself. Each car in Motorfest actually handles a lot different. They have different NOS powers, they have different top speeds, they have different lateral G stats, which loosely represents how they corner. And if you're switching cars constantly, you're never going to get used to controlling one. So if you're working on car control specifically, if this is something you want to improve on, I strongly recommend sticking with a set of cars, and I'm going to give you some recommendations here in just a moment. Number two, you need to vastly adjust the way you steer. Now, most people, I believe, steer with tap steering. So there's three different ways to steer in Motorfest when it comes to a controller. I'm sorry, if you play on keyboard, this is really not going to be real relevant for you because you really don't have the option to smooth steer. For controllers, there's three different ways to steer. There's tap steering, there's smooth steering, and then there's roll steering. So on screen, you're going to see with a controller overlay here, a difference of all three. My personal preference and the way I've always driven has been smooth steering. That's how I like to drive. And so I'm the most consistent with that. But in order to show some more joystick movement, I turned direct mode off for this video. You can see the three differences. Tap steering is obviously the worst of the bunch in terms of car control. You can see the nose of the car twitching back and forth. You're seeing how often I have to touch the joystick and move it like the full rotation or the full move in order to get the car to turn even just a little bit. Sometimes I'm tapping it and the car's not moving at all. You can see that too. With smooth steering, it's a little bit more smooth. You can see the car nose is not twitching back and forth. And with roll steering, the same way. Now, you can either do smooth or roll steering, whichever way works best for you. Roll steering is when you push the joystick forward and then you roll it along the outside edges of its circle in order to make your steering inputs. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but I know a lot of sweaty players are because it is a very fine-tuned sort of fine adjustment type steering. I just never got used to it because I came from the tap steer world, and going from tap steering to roll steering is sort of like a night and day difference, whereas going from tap steering to smooth steering is a little bit of an easier transition. So do what feels more comfortable to you, but I strongly recommend getting away from tap steering and going to a roll steer or a smooth steer. Number three, you need to reduce your throttle input as your car loses control. If you lose control of the back end or you start to drift in a corner, you need to let go of the throttle and let the car correct itself. If you're on the throttle a lot, it makes your problems worse. The throttle will increase every problem that you're having with control, because a lot of cars, especially rear-wheel drive cars, will have what's called torque steer, which means the car is sort of rotating because of the throttle input that you're giving it rather than the steering input. And then you're having to fight against that to counter steer and make sure the car is straight. It's easier just to not have throttle input in that moment. So if you start to lose control of the car, reduce the throttle, go back to a half throttle, or just completely get off the throttle, just have no throttle. That would help even more to get the car back to traction, then get back on your throttle and start going again. However, there are certain scenarios where you don't want to lift the throttle at all, and that is when you take a road car and you go off-road with it. You never want to lift your throttle when you have a road car going off-road. I know it sounds counterintuitive because when you get on the throttle, usually that's when you lose the back end, but the physics in this game dictate that you can't do that. You have to be full throttle when you're off-road, and you will stop losing control of your car off-road. It does help if you're in manual to shift up and be in a higher gear off-road, still being full throttle. If you're an automatic, you can get away with just being full throttle. If you're going too fast though, this was always a concern of mine when I figured out that you had to be full throttle in the dirt with a road car. What if I'm going too fast and I need to turn? You just stay full throttle and also pull the brake. So you just pull the brake, it slows you down, but you don't lift the throttle. Keep the throttle pinned, and mark my words, you will slow down and you won't lose traction. Now, if you steer too aggressively off-road, you're gonna lose traction no matter what, which is again another reason why you wanna get away from tap steering. If you're tap steering in the dirt, it's an easy recipe to lose that car in the dirt. Number 4, you need to monitor your own progress. You need to have a way to measure yourself against yourself as you're progressing through and becoming better at car control. The best way to do this is find one of the playlist races, race it, and then go back to it and try to beat your time. And then just record your best time every time and see if you can continuously beat that and practice that one course. And speaking of practice, that's number 5. You need to be practicing every single day. I mentioned this in a previous video. It's extremely important because even just a little bit of time off, even one day off, you have to sort of get back to where you were. Like, let's say you're here in terms of car control. If every day you take off, you're gonna go down and down and down and down. And then when you get back on the game, you have to get used to it, which is called derusting. So you derust back to where you were, and then you can start making progress. Not everybody has time to derust every single day and then to make progress. So what you need to be doing is keeping yourself at the same level in between gaming sessions so that when you do get back on, there's very little or no derusting and you can just start to make progress on your abilities. All right, let's get into the cars. I talked about that in the general practices, but basically you should be picking the same cars over and over again, and I have car suggestions for you. And keep in mind, all of my suggestions are sort of cars that are in the meta conversation, maybe not the best meta car, but these are the cars that are the most controllable. These are cars that basically every player should have an okay time controlling. So try these ones and stick with them. If you don't like them, try something else, but stick with the same cars every time you go out to a grand race. So in Street 1, let's talk about the Audi RS2. The RS2 is one of the most controllable cars in Street 1. It has very, very good gutter ability and it has good NOS power. It's very grippy, but it has a slight understeer problem. Now, if you're not used to the pace of the 911, which is the meta car in the class, you'll be fine. So Audi RS2 for Street 1. For Street 2, I recommend the GTO. Now, the GTO is the pick because of its gutter ability and its NOS power. It is very, very easy to control as long as you're not super twitchy with your steering. So again, try to get to smooth steering so that you can actually control the cars, but the GTO in Street 2. In racing, I recommend the T50S. This is the meta car in the class. It's the most controllable. It's the lightest weight. It does the best when it comes to drifting. It loses the least amount of speed in corners. It is an absolute beast in the class, and it's easy to drive. So I strongly recommend the T50S. In Hyper, you should go with the T50 or the Jesco. And if you're struggling with those two, because those are maybe a little bit more of an intermediate car, then start with the Cento Dieci. I know the Cento has sort of a bad rap in the community, but it is a very solid beginner car. If you can't control the other ones, start with the Cento, try to get general skills up, and then move into the Jesco, the T50, and then finally the king of the hill, which is the Agera in Hyper. In AGP, I recommend the RB14, but to be honest with you, in AGP, basically all the cars handle pretty well. You can kind of pick and choose. It has the most grip out of any class out there, so it's not really that difficult to drive. So just go with whatever you want to pick, but just don't switch it. In motocross, it's the YZ450F. It's the fastest bike in the class. It handles the best and it's got the best top speed. Enough said. In Rally Raid, I recommend picking the Z4. This is the most well-rounded car in the class. The Tacoma is better for top speed. The Porsche 959 is better for technical tight routes, but the BMW does both of those things pretty well. And it's got good NOS power. It's got good top speed. Not quite as good as the Tacoma, but it's close. So there's not really any reason for an average or beginner player to be picking anything other than the Z4 when it comes to Rally Raid. In Rally, I strongly recommend the Mini Countryman All 4. It's the least twitchy car out of all of the rally cars that are considered meta. It glides over bumps, it absorbs hits really, really well, and it's probably the most controllable rally car in the game. Now, if you want to go with something just slightly better, you can go with the Ivory Tower Ogmios or the Peugeot 205. Those cars are a little bit more tricky to drive than the Countryman. And finally, in Monster, you're going to go with the Silverado. It's the fastest monster truck by a mile. There's not really anything that competes with it, except maybe the Red Bull car, but that was a Summit reward. And if you're watching this video because you're having trouble with car control, you probably don't have the Red Bull monster truck, because I think it was a Summit Platinum reward. But anyway, I would go with the Silverado. It's the best pick. All right, finally, let's talk about ways to practice. I preach about practice a lot in this video. I'm telling you to practice every single day, so I think it'd be only fair if I gave you some ideas on how to practice. There's a few different things that you're going to want to work on when it comes to car control. Starting with like working on your smooth steering or your high speed turns, I recommend the race Achieving Immortality. It's a very good high speed course. I recommend that for hypercars specifically because hypercars can take those turns pretty well, especially the T50 or the Jesco. They take those turns very, very well. Even the Cento does pretty well on Achieving Immortality. They're not the tightest turns in the game. They're all like basically high speed turns. So it's a great place to work on that ability, smooth steering and high speed turns. For gutters, working on gutters, I strongly recommend Legendary X Rivalry. This is in the Donut Media playlist. It has gutter turns all the way up and down the hill. For the first like probably 60% of that race, it's just all gutter turns back to back to back to back. So if you want to practice guttering, that's the place to do it. I also have a gutter guide that's linked in the description as well. So check that out when you get a chance if you're having trouble with your gutters. Now, to straight up practice grand racing without actually having to be on a grand race, there is a race that's called Elite Nation. It's one of the most sweated races in this game for that exact reason. It simulates a grand race really, really well. So if you go to Elite Nation, which is in the Liberty Walk playlist, you can sort of simulate a grand race path without actually having to be in grand races. So that's my suggestion when it comes to those paths. Now, if you want to control your car a little bit more with curb hopping, there's a race called Jackson V8. It's in the American Muscle playlist, and that you have a ton of corner cuts. You're going over curbs left and right. You're going through fences. It's kind of rough, and it sort of gives you a little bit of a test when it comes to like curb hopping, which definitely is a thing in this game, particularly when you start to learn all the shortcuts. That's a great race to sort of control the car, learn to control the car while going over curbs. And finally, for off-road control, I strongly recommend Off-Road Island. This is in the Off-Road Addict playlist, and this is a really, really good race for this. There are several sections. There's off-camber turns, there's high-speed corners, there's jumps, there's obviously you have the AI is in the way at the beginning. There's fences and breakables. Like it actually tests a lot of your abilities. There's even a section where you have to jump over water, so it's going to test some of your NOS ability. If you really want to improve on your off-road racing, Off-Road Island is a very good race to practice in order to do that. Just keep track of your times, like I said. And speaking of keeping track of your times, it's super important to do this with every single class that you have. Pick out a practice race, keep track of your times, and compare it every single time. Try to get better every single time. Try to improve those times. It'll really help. Once you start doing all of that groundwork, you start to really, really get control of the cars. You're gonna see better results in the grand races. All right, so let me just summarize this up for you guys because I know there's kind of a lot of information going at you at once. There's a few things you need to work on. The first thing is to go to my settings video and change your settings. Make sure you set it up to where you're going to set yourself up for success. The second thing is you need to stop tap steering. Just completely stop it. Go to smooth steering or potentially roll steering, whichever one feels more comfortable to you. You need to practice throttle control. Throttle control has an effect on the steering of your car, especially with cars that are rear wheel drive. On top of that, you need to practice every single day. You got to play Motorfest every day. I really, really can't stress this enough. If you're taking time off, it's okay, but it's going to set you back in your progress. Just understand that. Finally, stop changing cars, especially when you go to your practice courses. Make sure that you're recording your times with the same cars over and over again. It gives you an idea of if you're making progress and how much. And lastly, know that you found the correct place if you're trying to get faster at Motorfest. I'm willing to help every single person individually. You just have to send me a DM on Instagram or Discord, and I will get to you as soon as I possibly can. I enjoy looking at clips and helping people specifically with specific advice, that type of thing. It just may not be instant, you know, you got to give me some time, but I do like to do that. So don't hesitate to send me a DM on Instagram or Discord. I'll do what I can to help you out. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.